Chapter 10: Buildings, Paintings and Books. The Iron Pillar. At Mehrauli, Delhi, the Iron Pillar is a remarkable example of the skill of Indian craftspersons. It is made of iron, it is 7.2 m high and weighs over 3 tons. This was made about 1500 years ago. There is the name of a ruler Chandra who probably belonged to the Gupta dynasty. We know the date because of his inscription on the pillar. The most astonishing thing is the pillar has not rusted through the centuries. Buddhist architecture. A number of stupas, chaityas and viharas were constructed in this period. Stupas were dome-like structures which contained relics of the Buddha or Buddhist monks. The word stupa means a mound. Stupas were of different kinds, round and tall, big and small, with certain common features. At the center of the stupa a small box was placed, which contained the bodily remains, such as teeth, bones or ashes of the Buddha or his followers or things they used, as well as precious stones and coins. This box was called the relic casket, which was covered with earth. Later a layer of mud brick or baked brick was added on the top. With a carved stone finally the dome-like structure was covered. A path known as the Pradakshina Patha was laid around the stupa surrounded with railings. The entrance to the path was through gateways. In a clockwise manner the devotees walked around the stupa, as a mark of devotion. Scenes and episodes from the life of the Buddha were often used to decorate both the railings and the gateways. Rock-cut temples. Some of the best examples of rock-cut temples are the Kailashnath temple at Ellora and the Rathas at Mahabalipuram. The Kailashnath temple is dedicated to Lord Shiva. It was built by the Rashtrakutas and is carved out of a single piece of rock. The Rathas located in Mahabalipuram are beautiful monolithic temples. They are popularly known as the 5 Rathas. Each of the Ratha was named after Draupadi and the 5 Pandavas. They were built around the time of the Pallavas. Each of these Rathas were carved out of a single piece of rock. The Dharmaraja Ratha, named after the eldest Pandav, is the biggest among them. Freestanding temples. The Bhitargaon temple near Kanpur and the Deoghar temple near Jhansi in North India were among the earliest examples of freestanding temples. These temples were built of stones and bricks. The Shore temple at Mahabalipuram and the temples built by the Chalukyas at Aihole, Pattadakal and Badami in South India are examples of freestanding temples. Features of the temples. The most important part of the temple was the Garbhagriha, where the image of the chief deity was placed. It was here that priests performed religious rituals and devotees offered worship to the deity. Some temples had a tower known as the Shikhra, which was built on top of the Garbhagriha. A hall or a space where people assembled and prayed was there in most of the temples. How were stupas and temples built? Building stupas and temples was an expensive affair. The kings or queens provided money and land to build these temples. To build these sculptures, good quality stone had to be found and transported to the place chosen for the new building. Here these rough blocks of stone had to be shaped and carved into pillars and panels for walls, floors and ceilings. Lastly, it had to be placed in the right position. Painting. Ajanta is a place where several caves were hollowed out of the hills over centuries. Most of these monasteries for Buddhist monks, and some of them were decorated with paintings. As the caves are dark inside, most of these paintings were done in the light of torches. The colors, which are vivid even after 1500 years, were made of plants and minerals. The artists who created these splendid works of art remain unknown. These paintings depict the lives and times of the Buddha. It also depicts scenes from the Jataka tales. Literature. During this time, some of the best-known epics were written. Epics are grand, long compositions about heroic men and women and include stories about gods. A number of Hindu religious stories that were in circulation earlier were written down around the same time. These include the Puranas. Purana literally means old. The Puranas contain stories about gods and goddesses, such as Vishnu, Shiva, Durga or Parvati. They also contain details on how they were to be worshipped. Besides, there are accounts about the creation of the world and about kings. Stories of the ordinary people. Ordinary people also told stories, composed poems and songs. They sang, danced and performed plays. Some of these are preserved in collections of stories such as the Jatakas and the Panchtantra, which were written down around this time. The Panchtantra are a set of animal tales composed by Vishnu Sharma. Each story has a moral attached to it. The Jataka tales are stories from the previous birth of the Buddha. Scientific development. This was also the time when Aryabhatta, a mathematician and astronomer, wrote a book in Sanskrit known as the Aryabhatiyam. He stated that day and night were caused by the rotation of the earth on its axis, even though it seems as if the sun is rising and setting every day. He developed the scientific explanation for eclipses as well. He also found a way of calculating the circumference of a circle, which is nearly as accurate as the formula we use today. Varhamihira, Brahmagupta and Bhaskaracharya were some other mathematicians and astronomers who made several discoveries.